Namo Amida Buddha, which means hail to the Buddha of limitless, infinite light. To anyone new to this channel, this is a video diary of my 40-day experiment of putting aside all my various spiritual beliefs and spiritual practices and doing something I've never done, focused on one tradition. In this case, Buddhism, a very specific form of Buddhism. It goes by many names: Jodo Shinshu, Shin Buddhism, Shinran Buddhism. So if you're new to all this, I would suggest you check out the introduction that's at the beginning of this channel, or my introduction to this 40-day experiment. So day 5, wow. My experience today is that, with this experiment, it's kind of like I just started a new life, in the sense of, my activities aren't so different, but my focus is. My focus right now is really primarily on attaining Shinjin, attaining that trusting mind heart that completely trusts in Amitabha to save me from these cycles of samsara. That's really, I have sub goals of, I want to share this with other people, and I'm also putting a lot of some time into taking care of my health and being more physical. I used to be a very athletic, active person, and that has slipped a little bit. And for some reason, when I decided to do this, I also said, I just need to get active, which is kind of an interesting combination, and maybe a balanced combination, because this path is very reflective. So that's just kind of what I'm up to, as I spend a lot of time reflecting on these teachings. I spend probably too much time thinking about how I can share them with others. And spending some time, exercising more, going to the gym, so forth and so on. But that's what's happening. That's kind of the structure of my day. But today was just really just kind of like I was just being carried along. And it's interesting, life just does flow on its own. It doesn't always flow the way we want it to, but it definitely just has this flow. It just moves. And now that I'm not really seeking a lot, even as a spiritual person, I was always seeking. I was seeking like the next magical connection with someone, or seeking, a high vibration state, or seeking like the better diet, or the better this, the better. It was always like the higher vibration thing. Like it was this perpetual quest for like high vibes and high experiences. And now I'm just realizing how stressful that really was. And it kind of was very apparent to me today. I went to the chiropractor, and it's a new chiropractor. So I walked into the office, and I was just like, oh my gosh, because, he had all these supplements, and he had like this special exercise ball, and he had all these books that most of which I knew, and I knew what all the supplements were. But I could kind of feel like, oh, I want that, or maybe that'll help me, or like this kind of grabby energy. And I realized that's kind of what the spiritual path had turned into for me, like this just never-ending search for better, better, better. And it's I can't say it's completely ended, but it's ending right now. Right now, I'm really just seeking Shinjin. I'm really just seeking to remove the obstacles to Shinjin, and I'm really just seeking Buddhahood. And that's, not to say that I, 100%, I, still have other desires, but that's becoming the focus. And as that becomes the focus, my life is just getting simpler And so yeah, that moment at the chiropractor was pretty, and then right after the chiropractor, then I had a very interesting experience. I went to return something at the hardware store and just started talking to this guy in line, and it ends up this guy's doing really bad. And he basically, at one point, he looked at me and he said, "You know how they say like the glass is either half empty or half full?" He said, "Well, for me, the glass is shattered and all the liquid is spilled out on the ground, and I did my best to offer some encouraging words. I was kind of taken aback. Mostly why I was taken aback is because that used to be me. What brought me to this 40-day experiment was just really feeling done with life and really feeling broken and that I would never be fixed. And it's not like I feel fixed now and that everything's perfect. I still have my fair share of challenges and questions and insecurities, but I do feel held through it. And in fact, today there were more than a few bumps. I had a discussion with a friend that was very, trying to work something out, and it actually didn't work things out. It just didn't make things worse, but it just kind of created tension. Um, but even through that, I just kind of, um, it's not to say that it wasn't uncomfortable and that I didn't suffer, but it's more like the suffering didn't stick. Like the suffering, it's kind of like a cold that doesn't totally grab you. So, and there have been some really beautiful moments today, as I really read and um, reflect on these teachings. And the one I was reading today was Shinran says that the greater the evil, that once one is purified, that the greater the virtue arises in the person. And I'm paraphrasing, but I was just so struck by the grace of that and that Shinran was saying no person, no matter how evil or how deluded, is excluded from this vow. That this vow can embrace everyone. And of course, what brought me to this path and what brings many people to this path is just feeling so broken that there's like nothing that's going to fix us. And what I've realized is that's true, except nothing, meaning nothing in this world. And, in the context of Jodo Shinshu, of Shin Buddhism, there's nothing I can do to fix me. But that's not the end of the story. There is self power might fail, and other people, places, and things might not be able to save or heal me. But there is an other power that we can turn to. And I'm starting to turn to it, and I'm starting to really feel it and believe in it and trust it. But most importantly, I'm starting to base my life on it. Starting to base my life on the idea that, it reminds me, I've studied a lot of different traditions, and one of them was this very interesting Kundalini teacher. And she talked about surrendering and surrendering to God and letting God, well, in fact, she used the word goddess, let goddess run the show. And she said, otherwise, it's like a monkey trying to fly a space shuttle, meaning, um, if we're trying to run life, and in the case of Shin Buddhism, meaning if we're trying to achieve our own Buddhahood, then it's like a monkey trying to fly the space shuttle. Like, good luck with that. And good luck with that. We've crashed and burned probably more lifetimes than we can fathom. And so now we're going to let Amitabha pilot the space shuttle. Thanks so much for dropping by this video. And And part of what brought me to this path actually was a Hindu teacher named Ramana Maharshi, and he said he said this phrase that just grabbed me. He said, either inquire into your source, which was his way of saying realize your Buddha nature within a Hindu context. He said one of two things must happen. You must inquire into the source, or you must admit your inability, that you need a higher power to help you. Well, I tried the first one, inquiring into the source, and I knew that wasn't for me. But the second thing, admit your inability, that you require a higher power to help you. That grabbed me when I read that. And I spent 2 or 3 years. I was like, but how do you do it? I was like, that's my path. But how the blankety blank do you do it? Because Ramana didn't teach it, and I couldn't find anyone who taught it. And now I have. This entire tradition teaches it when it's taught accurately and correctly. And very specifically, my late Dharma mentor, Paul Roberts, teaches it exquisitely in his book. And so I'm just following his simple directions. So let's do it, friends. Let's admit our inability. Let's admit that we're bamboos, spiritual idiots. And then let's also admit that there is a higher power. There is a Buddha of infinite wisdom, light, and compassion who wants only one thing: to help us become Buddhas, completely free of all suffering forever. Thanks so much for dropping by. Namo Amida Buddha.